Hi there, welcome back. This is ELA mini lesson number 10 with Ms. Johnson. Today we are going to get into realistic fiction features of a story. So we're going to talk about it and then we will go ahead and find some evidence in our text to kind of support that idea. So let's get started. Here we go. So what we've been doing the past 2 days is we have been reading Water, Sky, and we've been looking for key events in order to create a summary. So now what we've done is we read chapter 1 titled Lincoln from Water, Sky, and now what we're going to talk about is the genre. So genre means the type of book that we're in. If you look on page 13, in our corner of our text it always tells us what the genre is. It says realistic fiction. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about why it is called realistic fiction. So let's go. Okay, so there are kind of 5 main reasons why a story is a realistic fiction. So first of all, we're going to get into what that means. Realistic fiction is a fictional story, meaning it did not happen, but it could be. It could have happened. It could have been true. Hence, realistic and fiction. Something that is real, realistic, and something that is fake, put it together. It's a story that is fake but could have been real. So there's kind of 5 different ways to identify features of realistic fiction. So when we're talking about features, we're talking about reasons that things are realistic features. So I'm going to go over all of them right now, and then we're going to go and look for them in our text, okay? So the first one is characters act real. So the actions that the character goes through in the story is realistic, meaning they could have happened in real life. So they're not, battling each other with wands or lightsabers. They're not doing anything that's unrealistic. Characters do things that we could do as humans, as people, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2 is real time and place. So the story could have happened in today's time, or it could have happened in the past, but it's true to the time. So it's not in a different galaxy, it's not on a different planet or anything like that. What it is it's happening on Earth in a time period that we have experienced before. So not really the future as well. It needs to be kind of at a current time. Okay, and the third feature of a realistic fiction is characters have realistic problems. So in a story, there's always a problem and solution. The problem that the character goes through is realistic, meaning somebody in that situation could have that problem. So it needs to be something that makes sense to happen in the real world, which is why it's realistic. All right, feature number 4 is realistic events occur. So not only is the problem realistic, but the events that follow either before the problem or after the problem in order to solve it are realistic. The way that the characters solve the problem is a way that people could do it in the real world. Realistic fiction, it happens in the real world. And finally, we have number 5 feature, which is a realistic setting. So where the story takes place is realistic. So I actually have a map right here of where Barrow is in Alaska. So this is the state of Alaska right here. Barrow is at the very, very, very top of Alaska, which is actually kind of the top of the world almost. So that is an example of a realistic place. You can find it on a map just like I did. So all 5 of these features for realistic fiction all kind of boil down to one word that we keep seeing over and over is the word realistic. So the word realistic here means that it could happen in real life at this point in time. These are things that could happen. Okay, so our story, Water, Sky, is a realistic fiction story. And it is a realistic fiction story because it matches all of these 5 features of realistic fiction. So go ahead and turn to page 12 in your magazine and then turn to this page in your graphic organizer. We're going to read the directions and then we're going to start answering, filling out the graphic organizer. So the directions say realistic fiction is stories that did not really happen, but they are realistic, meaning they are believable and could happen. Complete the chart with examples from the text that show each feature of realistic fiction. So if you notice on our graphic organizer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 boxes that we need to fill in, and there are 5 features for a realistic fiction book. So we're gonna go ahead and find examples of all of these parts. We'll start with number 1. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about in our graphic features is characters act real. So we're going to go back and just read paragraph 1, and we're going to see if our main character is acting realistic. Is it acting normally? So it says, a boy in a bright blue ski jacket and Maine hunting boots stood in a snowy runway. Under rumpled black hair, his crooked nose and wide brown eyes gave him an expression of good humor. Although he was not amused at this moment, yesterday he had left Boston and laid over in Anchorage in high spirits. Now he was just about to run back to the friendly jet that had carried him across Alaska to the barren outpost. Okay, so some things that I see are realistic. He is wearing a bright blue ski jacket and Maine hunting boots. In Alaska, you want to be nice and warm, so he's dressing appropriately for living in Alaska or moving to Alaska. He had an expression of good humor, meaning he was happy, he was ready to be there. He'd left Boston, and now he was about to run back to the friendly jet. He was a little bit nervous. So these are all kind of, so what I want you to do is for characters act real, I want you to write down some details that we talked about in this first paragraph right here, how he's wearing the blue, bright blue ski jacket in Alaska, he's wearing boots. He has black hair, a crooked nose, brown eyes. His expression is good humor, meaning he's laughing, and he's also nervous. So I want you to just write down a couple of details that you know about the character Lincoln that we read in paragraph 1. Go do that now. Okay, so we're going to get into the second feature of realistic fiction. It says real time and place. So we're going to use paragraph 1 again, and we're going to talk about a real time and place. It says yesterday he had left Boston. That is a real time and a place. Yesterday is happening in the past, and Boston is a city in the United States. So I would write that down. And laid over in Anchorage in high spirits. Anchorage is also another real place. It's actually in Alaska. So he flew from Boston to Alaska. Laid over mean he stayed there for the night and then flew into Barrow, Alaska. So we have yesterday he left Boston and Anchorage. And the last thing, he is carried him across the Alaska to the barren Arctic outpost. So he's in Alaska, which is a real place, and he's in a barren Arctic outpost, which means he's in kind of an area that's really bare, and it's in the Arctic, so it's really cold, which is why he needs the ski jacket and the hunting boots. Okay, so we're going to actually go to paragraph 3 for the next one. It says realistic setting. So in paragraph 3, it says, he turned and ran to the airport terminal, his face happy with purpose. He was going to do what he had come to Barrow, Alaska to do. He did not look back again. So Barrow, Alaska, like I said, is a real place in Alaska. It's at the very, very top of the Alaska state. So for the example in our text of a realistic setting, I would just write down Barrow, Alaska. Alright, so we've talked about 3 of the features for realistic fiction. We've actually found details and evidence to support that. So we're going to find 2 more. The next one says characters face realistic problems. So we're going to go back to paragraph 11 and 12 on page 14 and 15. So on paragraph 11 it says, Vincent Olgak is sorry that he cannot meet you, Cusick said. He is not well. Then in paragraph 12, page 15, he says, Lincoln breathed deeply to quell the panic that was now rising in him. And if you read all the way down to paragraph 12, it says, when Lincoln had thought about meeting Vincent Olgak, he felt better about going so far from home, and he had gone back to sleep. Now he was frightened Vincent Olgak was not there. So the problem in the story is that he was supposed to meet this Vincent guy who is not there because he is not well. So for characters face realistic problems, that's a realistic problem, right? You go to a new area to explore, and the person you were supposed to be with is not well. These are all realistic things that could happen in a story. So kind of jot down some things that we've talked about for that. Okay, so the last one says, the last feature for realistic fiction says realistic events occur. So that's kind of spread throughout the entire story. You can go find events, details, things that happen to Lincoln that are realistic. If you turn to page 17, we're going to read paragraphs 18, 19, and 20. 18 says, "I'm sorry, Vincent Olgak's sick," Lincoln managed to say, then he quickly blurted, "I'll just go to the hotel. Dad said there's one there. I'll call him." "Oh, you don't have to do that. I will take you to Vincent Olgak, all right? He sent me to get you." Lincoln managed to work his mouth into a smile. The wind struck the terminal with a mournful wolf howl. The building shuddered. He reached for his return jacket just as the baggage came around the large door of the metal-walled building. Together with a blast of cold air, resolutely he picked up his duffel bag and suitcase. "Okay," he said, "please take me to Vincent Olgak." "You cannot go as you are," Cusack said. "You need Eskimo clothes here on the ice." "It's all right," the boy said. I've skied at Sub-Zero in these clothes." Cusack smiled at him politely. I will take you home first. You can leave your bags there." Lincoln nodded. With his duffel bag in hand, his suitcase in the other, he followed Cusack to the terminal. So this is a time where these events are happening that could have happened in real life, right? Like, Cusack's worried about Lincoln's clothing being not warm enough for the Alaskan environment, so he's offering to help him out. All these things that are happening could happen if you were in this kind of realistic setting that we're in. So go ahead and jot a couple things down about realistic events. Go. All right, and after you're done filling out your graphic organizer, we're going to go to the question on the bottom. It says, Water Sky is a realistic fiction story. Which event could not, circle that word, not, be added to the story? So you're going to read over all 4 of those events and pick out the one that would not happen in a realistic story. Remember, keep this in mind. Everything has to be realistic. Everything has to happen in the real world, okay? And that's it for ELA lesson number 10. Thank you so much for tuning in. We did an awesome job, and I hope you liked this video. I hope it helped you out. Bye. Thank you. See you soon.